Hi, welcome to Eugene.
Appreciate it. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing great.
You had a lot of options. I'm just curious what led you to wanting to pursue this one. Cristobal said that when you became available, they had to make a run after you, and just curious why you chose Oregon.
Yeah. A long time ago when I was, just starting out in the profession at the University of Pittsburgh, I worked for a guy named Paul Rhodes, who I think spent the last few years in the pack, and was trying to decide, between my first couple of job opportunities, and he always said the criteria he utilized was personal, professional, and monetary. And for 21 years, that's worked very well. At this point in my career, I'm not going to say money doesn't matter, but I'm in a pretty comfortable place. Uh, but after visiting Eugene personally, visiting with Coach, and having my wife and my daughter and my kids kind of do some research on the area, and the fact that there was a Target, a mall, a Whole Foods, a Trader Joe's, ocean 45 minutes to the west, mountains an hour to the right, a bunch of wineries, and professionally the opportunity to work for Coach Cristobal and the culture that he's created here, in a program that has an incredibly upward trajectory. And more than anything, I've been at four schools and won four conference championships as either a coordinator or head coach. And I really believe that not only does Oregon have the opportunity to win the pack, but has an opportunity to do even greater things. So those two things combined, played in the decision.
On the right side, Ryan.
Hey, Joe, Ryan Thorburn
Hey,
with the
Ryan.
Register Guard. Just curious, obviously, one of the big storylines entering next season will be replacing Justin Herbert. They have a very young quarterback room. Is that kind of nice to come in with a bunch of young guys with a clean slate? And do you have an impression at all on any of those guys yet?
Be nice to have Herbert back for another year. I think we tried to put in a petition, didn't work though. But yeah, I mean it's pretty analogous to the situation that I took over at Penn State, where Christian Hackenberg had set all kind of records and was a guy that was anticipated to go very high in the draft. And you walk into the quarterback room and it's Trace McSorley and Tommy Stevens, and guys who hadn't played a significant number of snaps at the college level. So I've met with all four guys, watched what Tyler's done, on tape from last year, and kind of went back and looked at the high school tape of the other guys. So it's tabula rasa. It's blank slate. Going to install a new offense and get it to all the guys, and excited for the competition. But think there's certainly plenty of talent to work with.
In the middle, Tyson.
Tyson, yeah.
Hey Tyson, how you doing?
Just you put so much time and effort in the last job that you're in, and for it to end quickly and then to quickly transition into something new. Just how are you able to how do coaches compartmentalize, like
Sure.
moving on to just the next thing and jumping right into recruiting and this and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it was not anticipated, and proud of what we accomplished at Mississippi State. 14 and 12 in 2 years. Averaged 7 wins, one game under 500 in the SEC, qualified for two bowls, won two egg bowls, and had three top 25 recruiting classes. But things happen. That's why the front windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror, because what's ahead of you is more important than what's behind you. And talk to kind of my wife about, hey, what do we do? What's our next step as a family? And the kind of discussion of, hey, do we take a year off and kind of decompress? And everybody in the family agreed you're not a take the year off kind of guy. So once we decided moving forward that we were going to continue to coach and pursue opportunities, it was full steam ahead. And of all the opportunities, certainly this one was the most attractive.
Front left here, James.
Hey James.
Good seeing you again. Joe, you took the Mississippi State job sight unseen,
Yeah.
and certainly it was, for all the reasons that you rattled off,
Right.
a worthwhile thing. But there was talk at the end about cultural fit and whatever
Yeah.
went on down there. How important was it to come out here and spend multiple days through that interview process with Mario and making that decision when monetarily you are taken care of as a result of the Mississippi State situation?
Yeah, I think with anything in life, you live and you learn, and certainly the speed at which the search was conducted at Mississippi State, Mr. Cohen did a very thorough job, and having the desire to coach at the highest level, and being the SEC West, I think that probably led to the speed of that happening. But certainly, you go back and say, all right, what's the next move? Where do we want to be? And although my family wasn't able to come out for the interview, like I said, they did their research. But once you get off the plane, I had not been a kind of a West Coast guy, but there's a certain allure and attraction to the city and the state, that's new and that's different. And like I said, checked off the boxes of everything that we were looking for family-wise.
In the middle, Jerry.
Hello, Jerry Thompson, Ducks Illustrated magazine.
Hello, Jerry.
So What I've heard is when you went to Penn State, you didn't run the quarterback too much, and you started implementing that. We saw what Justin Herbert did with Utah
Right.
and the Rose Bowl.
Right.
Is that something we can expect more of at Oregon?
In terms of running the quarterback?
Yes.
Yeah, I think ultimately at the end of the day, it's a personnel-driven game, and it's not what the coaches know; it's what the players can execute. So, it's really going to be based on what we can do as a team and what we're proficient at. You try to maximize your strengths and minimize your weaknesses. But, at Penn State, we were, 10 to 12, maybe 15 a game, called quarterback runs or something happens where he pulls it. And, I think that's just about right. At Mississippi State, we were a little more run driven and run oriented, because of, our personnel. But I'm not, from a base kind of philosophical approach, I want to be as close to 50-50 as we can, but that's all based on the team. And from what I've seen, watching every snap of last year from Oregon and who we have returning, I anticipate us being able to strike that balance between run and pass pretty successfully.
Front left, Matt.
Just going to ask about just the overall impressions of the offense. I know you talked about quarterback and what you have there, but just as you've watched film of who you're going to be coaching, just what stands out about this offensive group?
Right. I mean, Tyler was 12 of 15, 12 of 18 in the 180s. I think 2 touchdowns. And somewhere now, I may be a little bit off. So certainly a lot of talent with him and the guys behind him. You bring back the 3 leading rushers, almost all the wideouts. You lose the tight end, and then four guys on the O line. So I think it speaks volumes at the level of Coach Cristobal and his staff have recruited here over the past. That you're not looking to rebuild, you're looking to reload. And I think that was one of the most exciting things that does the system that you run fit the existing personnel. And I think that's the case, and it's going to be a pretty good match.
In the middle, Tyson.
What's your relationship like with Coach Mastro, and are you still going to be running the pistol this season?
Pistol, that's it. I think that there's a tremendous group of experienced and talented coaches in that offensive staff room. Once I was hired, we kind of hit the ground running from a recruiting standpoint. So people ask, how was Eugene? I'm like, I know, I'll tell you when I get back there. I'd been to the hotel, and the mall to get a haircut. So once recruiting ended, we actually started discussing football and having offensive staff meetings the past few days. And, I think there's a bunch of guys in there that are very smart, very experienced, and have a bunch of good ideas. So right now we're in the process of going through all the Oregon cut-ups from last year, seeing what we like, seeing what fits. Then we'll go through the Penn State and Mississippi State stuff and then try to, combine all those great ideas. And certainly pistol was part of the discussion.
Front right, Steve.
Joe Steve Mims from the Register
Steve.
Guard. This may fall a little bit under that last question too, but in terms of talking with Mario, in terms of the collaboration process, I mean, how much do you figure the head coach, the other coaches are in it? You're obviously the play callers. Right. How does that work in terms of game planning, and how much input you want people to give you as you put together the game plan?
Yeah, I think, the process everywhere I've been as a coordinator or head coach acting as a coordinator has been, as you mentioned, collaborative, that you sit down on Sunday and Monday and you start piecing together first and second down, move on to third down and the red zone and goal line and things like that. So, I want people to have, ownership of their aspect of the game plan. So I want all the guys in there, to play a part in it. And, right now in terms of play calling and input and things like that that's down at the far end of the trough. Right now we're trying to figure out what we want to call formations and what we want to do in the run game and the pass game and protection. So, we'll take care of that first. And then as we progress more towards the season, we'll kind of figure out some of the, who's up, who's down, play calling, input, and things like that.
Right here, James.
To kind of encapsulate a little bit of late November and December for you, Joe. Excuse me. If Elijah Moore doesn't do what he does, which prompts a move there, and but you gave a very impassioned remarks after that game, yeah, and the way that goes down, and amid a lot after that, and in December when a lot of things were being said about you, yeah, you still took the time to reach out because you saw something in a newspaper in Starkville. Can you just speak to just your own mindset there over that month where you're giving very impassioned remarks about football, things were happening on a field, and yet you were still doing things in a community despite a lot of noise that was going on?
I think at the end of the day in this profession, it's what we do. It's not who we are. And you can't allow things that are occurring to you or your program, to affect the fiber of your being. So, although I, believe we were having success, certainly that's subjective, and, other opinions may have felt otherwise. But at the end of the day, as you mentioned, there was, some foster kids in the town who weren't going to have a Christmas. And, my wife and I went to the store and bought them a bunch of gifts and brought them over. But at the end of the day, I think most great coaches or successful coaches are able to successfully kind of draw that line and distinction of football time and personal time and who you are. And my family and I were an incredibly rooted in the Starkville community. I mean, my boys went to the public school. My daughter went to Mississippi State, and we love the people there. And we just anything that we were able to do to be part of that community and have a positive influence, that meant a lot to us.
Second row on the left here, Eric.
Eric Scopel, DuckTerritor.com.
Hello, Eric.
I guess just you obviously were head coach this last year, recruiting around the country. I wonder how many players Oregon signed to this class you were familiar with, and kind of what your assessment is of the talent that's incoming.
Well, DJ James flipped from Mississippi State to Oregon last year, so coach did a great job there. But Trey Benson, a guy out of St. Joe's in the Delta, was a guy that we recruited pretty heavily. As you kind of go through the roster, I don't think we were necessarily as much nationally focused as Oregon is. We were, I won't say regional, but the state of Mississippi, kind of Louisiana and surrounding states. So, have a familiarity with some of the guys on the roster, but maybe not to the extent of, if this were a school maybe in the south or east of the Mississippi.
Second row on the left, Brandon.
Hey, Brandon Cameraman, Coach. Touching a little bit on what Eric just asked, Mario talks a lot about the national brand of Oregon,
Right.
and they've recruited multiple players in the Southeast. Having been a coach in the Southeast, what is your perspective of a Pac-12 team? Because most Pac-12 teams don't have as strong a foothold in Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi as Oregon does.
Yeah, and once again, I think it speaks to the branding, the visibility, the success of the program over the past few years. With Coach Bellotti, Coach Kelly, and moving on to Coach Cristobal, and once again, can't understate the importance of the opportunity to work for a guy like Coach Cristobal and what he's built here in a very short amount of time, and not just the on-field success, but the culture, the mentality. Kind of bringing that mindset of toughness and physicality to Oregon, but certainly, the name brand, the success, the school, the location allow you to go anywhere in the country and recruit the best and the brightest. And I think coach and the staff have done an unbelievable job with that.
Front left, Matt.
What are your thoughts on Butterfield and Robbie Ashford? Ashford being a guy that maybe was in your area.
Yeah, we offered Robbie, I think, as a maybe 9th or 10th grader. It was early. Had a chance to go home, visit him, and meet with he and his mom, and kind of rekindle that relationship, because we had a kid that was committed to us at Mississippi State. Knew a little bit about the Butterfield kid, but just getting to know those guys a little bit more, and then certainly with Butterfield being a mid-year and then Robbie coming in, they'll have a lot of learning to do, but I think they have a lot of talent.
James here on the left.
Getting into your background, Joe, how much does being the son of a steel worker fit in with philosophically just what Mario brings you mentioned the blue collar and the toughness mentality, but when you spend so many hours in a room together during the interview process, I'm sure no area was left unturned. So just how much does a lot of like-minded thinking and approach and background also kind of make this a right fit?
And that was actually kind of part of it, that when you're looking for the guy that you want to work for, and do you espouse the same values? And Coach Cristobal is a guy that's incredibly family oriented. Wife and kids mean a lot to him, but kind of grew up in the same kind of household mentality that you're gonna get what you work for, not what you wish for. And my dad was 35 years in a steel mill in Pittsburgh and had a second and third job as a bartender, as a janitor, whatever he needed to do. Not that my mom or dad went to college, but my brother and sister and I all did, because of the hard work and dedication to, as most parents want to do, make sure that their children's lives are better than their own. So everything that I've learned about persistence, about work ethic, about toughness, it really all comes from my mom and my dad and my family. And that's something I think you can never kind of overlook.
James, another one.
Has the quote book made the trip to Eugene, and where were the origins for that, Joe? Because I've heard legends of just how big this thing is. Where did that all start?
It's a probably 4-inch binder at this point. I don't know. I figured I had to do something to put my English degree to use. So collecting quotes is something that we started doing at Fordham and putting them up in team meetings. And I know Coach and Matt Neuer you see him up on kind of on the ticker and in staff meetings, but it's just something that we use from a motivational standpoint, and the kids have all grasped onto, and I'll have it available. I think it's probably in a box in my garage at Starkville now, but ultimately it'll make the trip out here.